Hello everybody and welcome back to Growing in the Cove. My name is Stacy and I garden in Zone 5B, Newfoundland. So it's been a little while since I've done a video and I thought I would show you some jobs that I'm doing now that it's early August. It's crazy to me that it's now halfway through summer and the conditions here are great for sunshine, but honestly really not ideal for the lack of precipitation that we've had. It has been very droughty this entire summer, but especially now. I have a wildfire that's burning within 30 minutes of me, which is very unusual for us here on the east coast of Newfoundland. Despite that, things are blooming and trying to stay alive. I've lost a few plants in the process, but otherwise I think the garden is doing the best that it can right now. So today I thought I'd bring you along and show you a few things that I'm doing right now that you might want to see. So if you're interested in that, please keep watching. So one of the first things on my to-do list is to start some seed collecting. This time of year, as earlier summer flowers have gone over, a lot of plants are starting to produce seed. This is something that I always like to do. In my opinion, it's a free method of propagating plants by just collecting your own seeds, and it's a great way to multiply plants that you already have, share seeds with your friends, your family, and you know, this is how gardening started for a lot of people before we had all of these seed companies, is that it was just passed through hands from gardener to gardener. So the first thing that I'm going to check is my columbine, which appears to be ready to harvest for seed. Now, columbine is a prolific seeder, and I can already see that some of these pods have split and thrown seeds all over the garden. So I'm probably going to have a lot more columbine next year. So all I'm going to do, how you know that the seeds are ready, if you can come in a little bit closer, is that you can actually see that these have blown open and you can see little black seeds in them. And if you shake the seed, I'll put my mic next to it, you can actually hear the seeds rattling. So I mean, it's pretty, these are some of the easiest seeds to harvest. So all I do is I will cut off the branches, and you could do this in a bucket or a bag, and tap, 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 tap. And just like that, I have probably 200 seeds there just from these two little stalks, and there's still a lot more in there. So this is how I harvest my columbines. I also like to cut them down because they start to look a little bit unsightly. So I'll cut these down and then I'll show you how many seeds I get when I'm done with this. Okay, so now that all of my columbine stalks are cut down, I have lots of seeds, but I'm actually going to leave them in this bucket because there's more seeds that are going to be released as these dry out. So just to give you a look, once I clean out all of these pieces, I literally have hundreds and hundreds of seeds in there. So it's a great way to collect your columbine seeds, and even if you don't collect them, these will just naturally kind of flick all over your garden and you'll have lots of volunteer columbine for next year. So I'm also keeping an eye on how all of my other perennials are doing, because there's some perennials that I actually like to collect seeds from. Some of them are not ready yet, but I'm just going to give you a look at how they look when they're getting near that stage. So over here, I have my Maltis cross. These actually were all grown from seed, and they are this beautiful scarlet red flower, but you can see that these are actually starting to produce seeds, and this is what the seed head is looking like. So all of these seed pods are green, but when they turn brown and you do the shake test and you can hear them rattling, that's when you know that they're ready. So these are not ready yet, but I am keeping a watch on them. Another thing that I'm keeping a watch on is my perennial Denths. I've collected seeds off of this plant, which I originally bought from a nursery, but I've actually been growing new plants from these seeds. So you can see that it's done blooming and the flower heads are starting to create seed pods. These are not quite ready yet, but what you will see on the Dianthus is when they get really dry, and again you get that rattle, then you will find little black seeds in there. But you can see that so far these are not ready. I've got these little light brown seeds inside, so they are not ready yet, but I'm going to be keeping a watch on these.
Ready?
So the next thing that I'm checking for are some nasturtium seeds. Every year I start my own nasturtiums that generally I save from the year before. And these are some of the easiest seeds to collect. They're big, they're easy to handle. So if you want to come in closer, you will see that once the flowers are done, they develop these really big, easy to see seed pods. So generally you can wait for these to turn brown. However, in my experience, you can pick them as is and put them in a paper bag or put them on a paper plate, something that will absorb moisture and keep them dry, and they will turn into brown little seeds and they will grow perfectly. I grew a lot of nasturtiums from last year's plants that were picked like this. So again, here's another one. They're so easy to spot and collect your own. And really, if you buy one package of nasturtium seeds, if you keep collecting them, you will forever have nasturtiums. So next thing I'm collecting seeds on is my marigold. I love this marigold. It's called Burning Embers, and it's just a single flowered marigold, but I love it. It gets fairly tall and the pollinators love it. So the good thing about collecting seeds off of this marigold is that it's kind of a double whammy, because you're deadheading, which will promote more flowers to be produced, but you're also collecting seed at the same time that you can grow next year. So marigolds are another one, super easy. If you see, here is a dried up flower bud. And if I break this open, you will actually see the seeds are totally mature and ripe, ready to be harvested. So with marigold seeds, you're going to want them to be black on one end, and that's how you know that they're done. So I can collect all of these seed pods and have tons of marigold seeds for next year, which I'm definitely going to do because I love this variety. I did purchase it from Revival Seeds in Nova Scotia, which is one of my favorite seed companies, Canadian seed companies, and they grow everything on their farm. But yeah, if you have marigolds, you can definitely try this. Another thing that I'm doing now is that I'm keeping things harvested, anything that's producing. And actually, I don't have a whole lot that's producing right now. I have a few tomatoes, still waiting on bush beans. I'm waiting on a lot of things. However, the peas have been producing now for a couple of weeks. But one of the things you want to do to prevent your pea plant from shutting down is to keep it harvested. So I like to come through every couple of days and actually keep picking your peas. Even if you're not ready for them, you can put them in the fridge. My dog comes out and samples these and loves them. But I do try to keep them picked, because what happens is if they go to seed, every plant is trying to produce seed. So if you leave this pod on the plant and it becomes a seed, then the plant thinks it has done its job and it shuts down. So in order to keep your peas going, you want to keep picking them. And as you keep picking them, you will see all along the top and along these side branches, I have new peas that are being developed. So it's a good idea to keep everything harvested as it comes. Another thing that I'm keeping on watch for seeds is poppy pods. Now these are not mature yet and they're not ready, but you can see that all the petals have dropped off and these big pods are filled with hundreds of seeds. So I like to strip all of the leaves off of the stem because they look really unsightly. So I do like to strip them off, and I will just leave them as these kind of like structural pods in the garden. But they'll still produce seed, so I will be waiting until they turn brown and develop little holes in the top of the seed pod. Next job on my list is checking my cutting patch to see what's blooming, and as you can see, I have a lot that is blooming. So just like when we harvest peas to keep them going, if you have a cutting garden, the one thing you need to do is actually cut the flowers, which can be hard to do if you're not used to cutting flowers after all of your hard work and tending to them as babies, but this is the purpose of having a cutting patch. So when you cut a snapdragon, I actually didn't pinch any of these snapdragons. So when I go to cut them, I actually cut them really close to the bottom of the plant and strip off all of the leaves. And if I was prepared, I would have a bucket of water here, but this is how I'm cutting snapdragons. I also love how they smell. They smell like bubble gum to me. These are one of my favorite flowers, but from this cut off stem, this is going to branch and I'm going to get multiple, probably 4 more stems off of this plant in a couple of weeks. So ideally, you want to cut snapdragons when they just open. These are pretty much all the way open, but the ideal stage that you would want to cut them at is like this white one. You can see that it's got 1 to 2 flowers open at the bottom. So I'll go right down to the base, cut it, and strip off all of these leaves, and then obviously cut it to whatever height of a vase that you want. So I'm going to be cutting some flowers out of my snapdragon patch. And I also have this beautiful Amy, or bishop's flower, I think. Amy Magus, and it is absolutely beautiful. So these, I just honestly hack into the plant. I try to go down to where it is branching. So I cut down deep into the plant, and you can actually cut this into 2 different stems. And these make a beautiful filler to go with your snapdragons. So yeah, right now I'm enjoying being able to cut some of my first flowers of the season, and I think these are absolutely beautiful. A great accompaniment to the snapdragon. Another thing that I'm going to be doing is checking my zucchinis every day to see what needs to be harvested. And I actually have 1 zucchini ready for harvesting. I like to check these every day because they can go from being really small to overgrown really quickly. But yeah, I'm harvesting my squash, and the more you harvest, the more they will keep producing. So that concludes some of the jobs that I'm doing in early August. Obviously, some things I didn't mention is watering, and lots of weeding that I am definitely not caught up on. But these are some things that I'm doing, and you might want to consider looking around your garden to see what seeds you can save and start harvesting early to keep your plants producing as much as possible. So thank you for coming along the garden with me today. I loved having you here. Thank you so much to everyone who likes, comments, and subscribes to my channel. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the growth that I've had recently. I hope everything is growing well for your garden, and until next time, bye.